Hi, Professor.
All right. So if you're here, then you are obviously registered and coming for BTA 112. It's 0021. Apologies. I think the first email from Blackboard that I sent out said 26. That's my other section, and they are fully online. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. Thank you for being on time, and well, I'm excited about the semester. I wish we were together in class, but even after 18 months, I guess we're still not there. What I thought we could do today is just systematically go through everything that I've provided, all the information, all the setup for the semester, to make sure that everybody understands what's happening. And then after that, as time allows, I will start us on the first chapter, which is chapter 12, partnerships. Now, someone asked a good question here earlier about whether you needed to remember accounting 1 for this class. There are definitely some basic principles that are going to come up time and time again, things like debits and credits, types of accounts, doing journal entries, things of that nature. So if that is something that you are having, difficulty with, or already that you are struggling with, then I highly recommend that you spend some time, and I know everybody's pushed for time, but maybe even just a little bit of time in chapter 2 of the textbook that goes over debits and credits, journalizing, account types, and so on. I also offered to the person who was speaking, and of course to all of you, that if you wanted to attend office hours, and I'll go over when those are, that if you wanted to go over some fundamental principles, I'm happy to do that with you as well. All right, so the class is a pretty big for online. So, I'm not going to go now through like everybody introducing themselves and things like that. I'll tell you in a minute when office hours is. What I'll do is I'll go over the syllabus and hopefully we'll answer all the questions that people have. And then after that, I'll explain to you about an assignment that you'll do where you'll tell me more about yourself, and hopefully we get to know each other. So forgive me if there's a little bit of a shaky start here. I have been teaching fully online, and before that, I also had as many people had a pandemic baby, so I was on maternity leave. So I haven't been on Zoom for a bit, and I think we'll be fine. But if there are some issues at the beginning, just bear with me. I'll get back into the flow. So I'm going to share my screen, but while I set that up, I'd like all of you. Hopefully, everybody is using some type of device that will allow you to get into Blackboard. I'd like you now to take, the next 5 minutes or so to log into Blackboard if you haven't done so already, and also to log into Wiley Plus. And while you do that, I will go and do the same and get myself situated. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen here. Hopefully everybody can see that. I'm just going to try and move. Okay, that's great. So I'm going to go into Blackboard so that I can speak to all the different, I guess, questions that people probably have already, and questions that you will still have going forward. Again, you take a moment and log into Blackboard as well. If you're just joining us, we're just taking a minute to log into Blackboard and log into Wiley Plus so that you'd be able to follow. I know that some people have not yet registered in Wiley, so if you haven't, then you probably won't be able to log into your account yet. But for those who have, I just like to make sure that you can at least follow to some extent what I'm talking about. I'll give you another 3 minutes or so to just get logged in.
Hi, Professor. I just have a quick question.
right.
So when I did the Wiley Plus account,
Mhm.
of course I got the 14-day free trial, but I think it was you that mentioned that it would be free for the fall. I just
Yeah,
don't see where
It
I
should
can.
be, I asked did you use the URL that I put on Blackboard?
Yes, and the
Yes.
passcode. but-
Yeah, so I mean, I spoke with, I actually spoke with a Wiley rep on Tuesday and asked if there was anything special that we needed to do in order to ensure that it was open access, meaning free. And she said, no, it's just free automatically. So I know that it probably said grace period, but I think
Yeah,
it's
the
going to be,
14 days.
it's going to be free anyway. Because it has to be for all the URLs that are associated with LaGuardia accounting too. But I can ask her again if someone checked off the grace period, if there's anything else they need to do. I can't see who's speaking, so can you tell me your name, please?
It's Margaret Rodriguez.
Margaret. Okay, Margaret, I will ask her again. I don't know if anybody else, I mean, without making
Thank
this too
I have a
complicated,
question.
if there's anybody else who, 1 second, who did this and has something to add. Yes, go ahead, the person who has a question.
So I clicked the I did the link you put on Blackboard for the class. It told me to put my email in, so I put my email that I have with Wiley Plus, and then it tells me access denied.
Did you get a 502 or something like that, error like that?
No, just I had like a lock and it says access
Yeah,
denied.
I'm asking because someone else had an issue with logging into Wiley. Was this yesterday?
Yeah, that was me actually.
Yeah, Jacob.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yes.
I don't know. Is that how you pronounce your name, Jacob? Or
Yes,
Jacob?
Jacob. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Jacob had a problem yesterday where he also was access denied, and then he said the problem was actually with Wiley, not with him. So John, I think it's John who's speaking. I would try again, and if you get the same error, try to clear the cache. You know how to clear the cache on your browser. And then try again. If you still have the error, send me a screenshot and I'll speak to the Wiley rep to try and figure out what the problem is.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor.
All right, and that applies to anybody. If you're, I anticipate this is usually how it goes. There are some login issues at the start. People have some difficulties. So if you have difficulties, you can feel free to contact me, but it would be much more helpful if you actually send me a screenshot of the error that you're getting, because Wiley can't help us if we just say that you can't get in, but they don't know what the type of error you're getting. All right, so by now everybody should be in Blackboard, hopefully. And you know, I just over here where it says, you know, read this first. This is just let me minimize the. This is just me trying to make sure that. And you know, we've been in remote learning for a long time now, so I think everybody gets this. But it's you know, my responsibility to make sure that I say this, that you know, if you're in this class, because we're online synchronous, you have to attend the lectures and you have to do your work online, that you have some type of device, whether it's a laptop or a tablet or whatever, that you can do your work on, that you have access to internet, that you actually do and can able or are able, excuse me, to access Blackboard. The reason for this is that often I'm sending emails via Blackboard and announcements, and people either don't know which email they have that's attached to Blackboard, or you know, they have some difficulties with getting into Blackboard. If you do have those difficulties, there's technical support at LaGuardia that can help you get into Blackboard. And then also, I'm asking you to work on getting your Wiley Plus account set up by Monday. I don't think it's too big an ask because you don't have to pay. So it's, you know, people don't have to wait for their financial aid or whatever to come through. You're literally just registering for a free account. And I just want to do that so that we can iron out all the issues. If you're not registered by Monday, it's not going to be, you know, the end of the world. But I assume people who are not registered by Monday are people who are having some technical problems, and I can help you with that. If you did not receive a welcome email from me at all, then, or an email with the Zoom account details at all, then I ask you to please make sure that you have claimed your LaGuardia email account. Please make sure that you know which email account of yours is attached to Blackboard, because you may be missing important information if you aren't receiving emails from me. I'm talking about people who maybe went onto Blackboard to find the information, but they're not actually receiving any emails. And then, you know, as usual, accounting is a pretty labor intensive class. There's homework, there are tests, there are all kinds of things that need to happen. And I have due dates, and we'll go through that. I try to set them up at the beginning of the semester so that you guys know what is coming. And so that if you are having challenges with your schedule, that you actually speak to me in advance. And, you know, I'm normally in the system, anything that is done late is going to be marked late. So it's not even about whether I'm accepting it or not. The work will be late if you are submitting after the deadline. And then, you know, because again, we're in this remote environment, sometimes we have to correspond via email. So you just want to take some time to make sure, to make sure that you are reading the information that I'm sending and asking me questions if needed. Does anybody have, this is open time now, right? This is your time. Does anybody have any questions about devices or anything to do with any other questions related to Wiley registration or anything to do with that first segment I just discussed?
Professor, I have a
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I wanted to know, last semester I had an accounting class, right? Accounting 1. So
Yeah.
we were asked to purchase Wiley Plus, and he asked us to buy a year package because he was like, it would help you for the rest of your classes too, for further semesters. So I can still use that.
Yeah,
one.
it's the
right?
same because you're on the new, because you were on the new Wiley Plus. So you're fine. It's going to be the same login. You're just going to be in my class now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So just use this URL, this information. You'll probably put in your credentials and you'll be in. So I'm repeating this information in multiple places on Blackboard. It's the same information. This is the URL that you can copy and paste to get to our class on Wiley, where you can register for the class. If you prefer to go by using the course code, this is the flyer that will give you step-by-step instructions on how to register, excuse me, using the course code. Other questions? Right. So for our class, we'll go through chapters 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, and 18. Everything's set up to run that way. You know, I'll lecture the materials. You'll have time to do the homework. There will be quizzes and tests and an exam. And in a minute, I'll go through all of what that entails. This is, for the most part, how you'll contact me if you don't see me in class and you need to reach out to me, or you can come to the office hours. And like I said, I'll discuss when the office hours are happening in a minute. If you do decide to email me, please put your section number and your name and maybe some type of topic in the email so that I can know who's emailing me. Sometimes people have email addresses that are not the same as their names and I don't know who I'm talking to. So if you're asking me something, I can't help you to the best of my ability. And I also have multiple classes. So sometimes it's difficult to know which class is the person is from, if I can't see your name anywhere in the email. And if you do email me, I normally get back to people fairly quickly, but you know, life does happen. So please allow me some time to get back to you. So if there's some type of last minute issue, you know, I'll try to respond, but you know, try to see if you can email me with some sufficient time available for me to get back to you. Any questions about contacting me at this time? Are we good? All right. So people were asking me about, I'm skipping over the bio, I'll come back to that. People were asking me about when is office hours and so on. So the syllabus is here. I have to check if I put the office hours in the syllabus. I may not have, now that I'm thinking about it. I may have put it, you go in here. Yeah, it's actually not here. So sorry that I didn't put it in. The best thing would probably be just to put the office hours in now under the Zoom meeting information for the office hours. So the office hours are going to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, okay, at 1 o'clock, but I do understand that some people are not going to be able to make that time, okay? So it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Now you'll say, well, I have other classes during all of those times, so I'll write you or by appointment or by email. You are welcome to email me your questions. You're welcome to email me to say that you can't make the office hours because it clashes with your classes. So is there another time that we can speak? Like I can speak often on a Friday as well. It's just many students don't have, sorry, I don't know what's happening here. Many students don't have class on a Friday, so I don't want to put Fridays down and then it's another day when you have to be thinking about school when you could be thinking about something else. So, all right, so that's when the office hours are. And the office hours are via Zoom or via email or by appointment at a different time to the Zoom hours. Any questions about office hours? None? Okay. Right, so let me see someone's, okay, no, that's fine. That's a previous question. So here goes the syllabus. I know this is the first day, so it's kind of a lot of information and it's possibly also super boring if you already went through everything on Blackboard. So forgive me if I'm repeating things that you've seen, but we want to make sure that everybody's aware of the requirements of the syllabus and that there's no confusion about what's happening in this class. So these are the times when we meet, 10:30 to 12:45. I generally take most of that time, if not all of it. So this is not really the type of class that's just going to suddenly end early. So if you have some type of clash or whatever, please talk to me if you need to leave early. So be it, but don't make a consistent, habit of trying to get somewhere early because the class will probably go until at least 12:30, if not 12:45. I do give breaks in between though. The Zoom is obviously the way that we'll be doing the class. We've already discussed getting into Wiley. If you have problems, you speak to me directly. I will resolve them for you so that everybody can be on Wiley by next week. Going through, I'm not going to put you to sleep here by reading every course objective. What I will say though, if you are thinking how is accounting 2 different from accounting 1, in accounting 1, of course, you learned a lot of the fundamentals of accounting, but you also would have used what we call the sole proprietorship as the means of learning all of that. In accounting 2, we are going to be focusing on other forms of business. So you're talking about partnerships and also about corporations, right? So by corporations, I mean companies. So that's a lot of where the difference is going to lie. And I will, we'll go through every single step together. So what's happening with the grading in the class? You are accumulating grades, you know, as you go along, which means that you are not really going to be able to just hit it out of the park for a midterm and a final, and you'll kind of be okay. There's homework, there's tests, and so on. So your first two tests or your two tests, excuse me, are going to be 15% each. They're all happening in Wiley. There will be a testing window that, and I'll go over that when I go over the calendar. So that means that the test will be available for a number of days, but you will take the test, you know, within the time allocated. So let's say the testing time that's allowed is 4 hours, but the test is open for the next week. You decide which 4-hour block of time you want to take the test in. If that's between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning, that's fine. If it's between 1 and 5 p.m. in the afternoon, that's fine, as long as you take the test before the window closes. Right, so hopefully that allows for the flexibility that people need, that you don't have to come and sit and take the test in the class with me, or take the test at a particular time on a particular day. There's also quizzes that are attached to each test. I normally recommend that you take the quiz first. It's just 10 multiple choice questions to see where you are at, and then maybe where you need to brush up on some of the material, and then you take the test. I provide, and let me just go back to Blackboard, and for those who looked at Blackboard, you probably saw this already. For each test and quiz, I provide you a summary of basically what is going to be tested, right? So for the first test, I'm telling you, there are going to be 7 exercises. This is the material that the exercises will cover. And I'll go over that in more detail when we get closer to the time. Otherwise, it's too overwhelming to discuss it now. I just want, for those people who might be panicking already and saying like, oh no, there's a test. What does the test look like? I'm explaining, you know, what the test will consist of in on Blackboard. Then there's the final exam. The final exam does cover all the chapters except for chapter 12. But again, even for the final exam, I'm not just going to tell you go and study the whole textbook. I'm telling you already for the final exam, this is what I'm testing. So make sure that this is the material that you are focusing on. So that's 30% of your grade is the final. The homework is also 30%. I weight the homework really high because I want to make sure that people are actually doing the homework. So this is something to be aware of as we go along, that every homework counts 5% of your grade. So don't sleep on the homework, guys. If there's homework that's due, you can, again, always ask me for help. You have unlimited attempts at the homework. After the 5th attempt, I give you the option of looking at, you know, the answer. If you need to, a few points will drop off, like maybe 15%, but you can just keep going. You don't have to take the solutions if you don't want to. So you have unlimited attempts. It's 5% of your grade. It's actually a very easy way to get your grade higher in the class. And again, the reason homework is weighted so high is because I want people to do the homework, and I want you to be able to get good points for having completed it. Then the last 2 things on the grade weighting, there's a personal biography that I'm requesting everybody does. Since we're in this remote environment, it's actually very difficult for us to get to know each other in any truly meaningful way, especially because it's a very big class. So I usually ask my classes to do this. Don't worry, it's not a huge assignment. It's actually pretty easy. It's probably going to take you no more than 10 minutes because you're just writing about yourself. So basically what it is, and let me actually just go here. It's on the discussions tab. Oh, 5 people already did it. So thank you to the 5 people who did it. So you go to the discussions tab, you click on personal biography assignment. It's okay if you made your own thing, that's not a problem. Where it says post your biography here, You go in and you answer the questions that I gave you. Where are the questions? They're under the weekly assignment list. Now you might say, why didn't I just put the questions on the thread? Because I want you to look at the weekly assignment list to make sure you know what's going on. So basically, this is very simple. What is your name and where you're from? What is your major? What is one challenge you've overcome or one accomplishment that you're proud of in your life? What is one interesting fact that we wouldn't see on your resume? And what is a concern you have about taking an online class? And what can you do to overcome this concern? By now, you guys are veterans at taking online classes. So I'm sure you might, you may still have concerns, but you may also know how to deal with them. This is due by next week, Wednesday. I know that the college is closed on that day. It doesn't mean that you have to work on Wednesday. You can do this anytime between now and Wednesday. It's just that the deadline is Wednesday at 6 p.m. Questions about this biography assignment?
I don't have a question about a biography, but I wanted to ask, you said you were talking about quizzes. Quizzes are going to be the
About what?
quizzes.
Oh, quiz. Yeah. Go ahead.
Will it be like time limited, like the
Yeah.
tests? Like we're gonna get a specific
Yeah.
duration of time, and then we have to complete it.
Right. So it's C. Is that your name? C?
Yes. See.
Okay, I see. So yes, the quizzes and the tests are timed, but I'm very generous with the time because I know that people are still learning the new system and that it's like back and forth and scrolling up and down. So it's 10 multiple choice questions, but I'm giving you 2 hours to do it.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, most people are done within like 30 minutes. I'm not watching what you're doing. You can take as long as you want. It's not unlimited attempts though. So you do have to study and you have to make sure that you don't, guess. And then for the test is written to take 2 hours if people studied. But again, because of all the commotion with the news platform and people having trouble navigating, I doubled the time. It's 4 hours. So, I have never really heard of anybody complaining that they didn't have enough time. What I actually find is that the students often don't take enough time to do the work and to get the maximum amount of points. So I think you'll be fine, see, in terms of time. What I will say, and I'll keep saying this about Wiley, it's a little bit strange to me, but this is how it works, okay? In the new Wiley system, you can go in and out of tests and quizzes, right? You can exit, or if your computer crashes or whatever, you exit, or the internet goes out, you've exited the test. However, the clock does not stop ticking, even though you're no longer in the test. So if I give you 4 hours to do the test and it's 11 o'clock now, if you click start, the clock will run from 11 to 3, whether you are actively completing the test or not. So please be aware of that, because last semester we had this problem where people were emailing me in a panic saying that they ran out of time. And when I looked, I saw it was because they went out of the test and thinking that the clock stops, and it doesn't. And then they came back in and realized that they had run out of time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I didn't know you can keep going with the test if you
Yeah,
logged out.
It's a little bit weird. I asked the rep multiple times. I said, so even if someone gets so mad, they throw their computer against the wall and the computer, she's like, it doesn't matter because it's on Wiley's end that the clock is still ticking. So it doesn't matter what happens to your computer. Once you start the test, the clock is running. Okay. And if something does go wrong, there are ways that I may be able to put time back for you, but in the new system, it's very complicated. So I would just encourage everybody, if you're going to start a quiz or a test that's timed, just make sure that you have a serene environment, that you know that you'll be able to sit for the amount of time, that you don't have family members going crazy or whatever that you need to deal with, that you just have the time allocated to do it, so that there's no chaos with you going out and coming in and realizing you don't have any time left. If something does go wrong, it does happen. Suddenly there's an emergency and you have to leave the test. Please contact me and tell me that that this is the issue. Because I also had people who ran out of time and never told me they ran out of time and they got very bad grades. And only when I contacted them did they tell me that they lost time. All right, so The
And,
homework, let me just say this, the homework is not timed, it's unlimited, you can take as long as you want, you can go in and out as much as you want, just make sure that you finish it by the deadline date, and I will go over the deadline dates. Go ahead.
And do you have any extra credits?
I usually see how it goes on
Assignments?
the first, yeah, I usually see how it goes on the first test, if it's, you know, if it goes, if some people are not doing that great, then I usually have an extra credit that I prepared. I think I prepared it already. It will probably roll out after the first test. It's normally about 10 points. It's unlimited attempts. You can ask me as many questions as you need. I expect that most people who do the extra credit will get the points. What I will say about extra credit though is it's just extra. It's not the main thing. So please make sure that you are studying. And I'm not just saying this to you, see, I'm saying this to everybody, that you're actually focusing on, you know, the tests and the homework and stuff, and not hoping that extra credit is going to make up the difference. It won't. It will just be like bonus. You need to make sure that you're getting maximum points on the actual tests and quizzes and so on. All right,
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
John, is your hand up? I see a hand up there.
Yes, I have a question. So
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
said you said that the final exam is going to be on all chapters.
Yeah.
Did you mean all chapters that we learn with you, or all chapters?
No,
in,
just with me,
oh.
not with everybody.
Okay, I thought you meant like from going back to counting one.
No, we'd be testing for days. No, you're fine. As long as you just remember I'm not going to test you on anything to do with accounting one. It will be our material, but just remember that there's overlap in the sense that you do need to know how like debits and credits work and things like that, but that's not going to be tested explicitly. All right.
Okay.
Any other questions on?
Yes, Professor.
Yes.
So you did mention that we're supposed to just refresh if we need the opportunity to do so on chapter 2 only, correct?
Yeah, so, you know, let me go in here exactly. Let me just go in here quickly. This is the, what do you want to call it, New Wiley Plus, right? And of course, it's all, you know, brand spanking new, but also confusing. So the textbook is under Wiley course resources, which is not intuitive, but that's where the textbook is. So I just want to show people, maybe you have some people might have hard copies, or they have other, you know, other formats of the textbook available. Let me just go in here and go up. And so this is the chapter that's the most critical if you're having issues with fundamentals, the recording process, because we're talking about debits and credits, the journal, how do you post to a ledger, what is a trial balance, how do you make that? If you can go in there and try to master that piece, for the most part, you should be okay in terms of the fundamentals that you need to know for our work. I will still teach the things, you know, as if people don't know what's going on. That's kind of how I operate, but there are certain times when I won't be able to go back to a fundamental that is just going to take so much time and will cause the class to fall behind. Sorry, I seem to have some issue with like this thing's randomly zooming in. Tanisa, is that answering your question?
Yes, Professor, thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Okay. Anything else, textbook wise, Wiley Plus, the biography assignment, anything else before I move on? All right. So I don't think we really need to do much on this tab because most people ask me these questions. Just a reminder that this is the URL. You literally copy and paste it into your browser and you'll be able to get to our class, or you can use the flyer and use this course code. If you are an ASAP, well, I don't even know how this works. If someone's an ASAP student and they have to buy the book, I don't know if that's a necessity. I was told to just tell you that the book is available at the bookstore, and this is the net price to the bookstore. But I mean, you're getting the book for free. You're getting everything for free. So I'm not sure you need to use your vouchers to buy a book that you don't actually need to pay for right now. So please don't pay for anything before speaking to me first, so we can make sure that you're not wasting your money. It's rare for a book for access to not cost anything. So please use that. Okay. So here we come to something that is helpful, hopefully will be helpful to you. It's somewhat helpful to me to just keep track of where we are in the class. So this is, I go by the dates for every month, the days when we're meeting and so on, to try and give us all an idea of where we should be in terms of covering the material at any point in time. Today, I just set aside most of the time for the introduction and going over questions and going over the syllabus and so on, but we probably will talk about chapter 12 a little bit. I'm giving you, anything that's in red is a day when we don't actually meet, but something is due. So I am asking you to go in and try to create a Wiley Plus account between now and Monday. And of course, email me if you're having issues, send me screenshots of the error messages you're getting. The personal biography is due by Wednesday. Everything is 6 p.m. Okay. I used to do a midnight, due time, but it doesn't work because people are emailing me at like 11:30 in the night. And, at that point, it's very difficult to think straight and to help anybody. So we're going to be on a kind of close of business, 6 p.m. Approach for the semester. So your personal bio is due on Wednesday, but you can do it anytime between now and Wednesday. If you have questions about it, just ask me. This is something that just counts 2% of your grade, but the 2% you'll get immediately. It's like if you complete it and you answered all the questions, you get 100%. So please just do it so that you can know you already have 2% in the bag by Wednesday. And then please also just do the work so that I can make sure that people are engaged in the class. Next week, Thursday, I'm sure you guys know this already, next week, Wednesday and Thursday are Jewish holidays. So the school is not having any classes. So if you have a Wednesday class that usually meets, it probably won't meet, but our meeting on Thursday is not happening because of the Jewish holiday. So I see you today and I see you next week, Tuesday, and then I don't see you again until the following Tuesday. All right, is that clear? Hopefully that's clear to everybody. Don't show up for the for the thank you. Don't show up for the meeting. I'm not gonna be here either because I'll have to be on kiddie duty because the kids are also home from school.
It's only Thursday or Wednesday and Thursday?
Okay, listen, let me show you where you're gonna check this, okay? For future reference, you go to the LaGuardia website, go to the academic calendar. I think I put this up for you guys anyway, but here you go. All right, so this is for us for fall. So it's going to be Wednesday and Thursday because it's Yom Kippur. Okay, so for the Jewish holiday. So that's why we're out both of those days. So if you don't meet me on a Wednesday, but if you have a Wednesday class, that class is not supposed to be meeting. So you can, if next week Wednesday was going to be the first day of some class that you're taking potentially, you can check with that professor, but they probably wouldn't be meeting that day. It's clear?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if someone asked this already, but the link that you gave us, would that be the same one for all the classes, or are we gonna give us different links each class?
No, it's a recurring link. It's the same. It's the same. So you can just click on that link anytime you want to join the class. If there's some issue, sometimes Zoom acts the fool and you can't get in with a link, just use the meeting ID and the passcode and you'll still get to me. It's a recurring meeting, so it will always be the same link.
Thank you, Professor.
All right. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to keep up if I made a different link for every class. I think I'd go crazy. So, okay, so on this thing, you can see, what the school is saying about when there's no classes and stuff. If for some reason, I don't know if anybody, you have today's class and you decide that you never want to see me again, you have to change your section by Wednesday at the latest. Okay, so if you want to move to a different class for this class, or you want to move to a different section for some other class, Wednesday, September the 15th is the last day to do that. You can do these things. You can do all these things in your My LaGuardia or CUNY first, I think. All right. So then I'm just showing you, we move through the different chapters. On this side over here, it tells you when the homework is due. So on September the 28th, that Tuesday at 6 p.m., the chapter 12 homework is due. So what do I mean by the chapter 12 homework? If I go back, let me see if I can get back into Wiley Plus. Yeah, all right. So let me go to the student view. So when you finally logged into Wiley and everything is fine, this is what you're going to see when you go to your home page. This is what I mean by the chapter 12 homework, okay? When you click on there, and I'm not going to do the homework now, obviously. When you click on there, it's going to say, okay, hang tight, whatever, open the assignment, and then you click open, and then you start doing the work. Remember, you have unlimited attempts at these questions. I think after the 5th attempt, you have an option to, to get some of the some hints and solutions. It's read this, you'll see it's going to tell you everything that you need to know, and then you can start, sorry, then you can start the assignment. Any questions on how to access the homework? What I just demoed. Okay, so then you've got, sorry, it seems that the computer has a life of its own here, a mind of its own. Chapter 13, homework, and so on, right? It shows you every time something is due, when it's due, print this out or mark your phone or do whatever you got to do to make sure that you don't mess up on these dates, all right? Because what happens is if you don't finish the work by the time that it's due, the system will auto submit whatever you have done up to that point, and then that's just your grade. So also when you go through, if you save your answers, that's fine, but make sure that you submit also if you know that the answer is correct, just in case something glitches in the system. So auto submit means that by 6 o'clock on September the 28th, the system will take whatever you've done up to that point and will submit that as your response for that homework. All right, so make sure that you are doing the work. And anything done after that will show up as late. And if you try to access the homework after the due date is passed, you won't be able to enter any answers. Okay, so your test and quiz, this is what I was talking about, right? It will open on a Tuesday, the 26th. And then you have that whole week. You can choose a time, a day for that whole week to actually complete it. So let me mute this person. So from October the 26th to November the 2nd, the test 1 and quiz 1 will be open and available on Wiley. You can choose to do it immediately because you're so ready. You do it on the 26th, you spend your 2 hours on the quiz and 4 hours on the test, or however much time you need. Remember, I doubled the time, so you probably don't even need that much time. And then once you're done, you're done. Or you can wait until the 2nd. I don't advise this, but you can wait until the 2nd and complete the stuff then. Just make sure that you have enough time to do everything. So that's how and it's the same for quiz 2 and test 2, okay? There's a whole week's window when it's available and you can decide when you want to take it. Does anybody have questions about that piece, about the test and the quiz being open, but you still have to take it within a particular time window? Okay, so it seems like it's clear. Obviously, we have no class on Thanksgiving. The last day for us together is on December the 7th. I know this sounds like super far away, but it will come by sooner than we think. And then the last day, sorry, this got cut off, but the last day to withdraw from any class is Wednesday the 8th. Since it got cut off, I'll just show it here on the academic calendar. On December the 8th, if you decide that you don't want, that you want to get a W grade in a class, you can still withdraw up to that date. That's also the last day of classes. And then our final exam will open on December the 9th, and it will be open until December the 14th at 6 p.m. And you can take it at any time during that window. Questions on the calendar? All right. So I know it's a lot to digest. I'll give you a break here in about 15 minutes and also just keep the line open for questions. Zoom meetings info. This is what was just asked. Is it the same? Is it always the same link? Yes, it's the same link. That's the meeting ID and passcode. If for some reason the link doesn't work for you. Office hours, it's also recurring meetings. So it's the same link. It's also the same ID and passcode that you can use if need be. Office hours, again, on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. If anybody needs to see me for office hours today, let me know. I don't anticipate office hours today, but if you want to come at 1 o'clock, I'll be around. So we've gone through this. This weekly assignment list is just telling you again when all the homework is due, when the tests and quizzes are due. You know this already. The test and quiz information I'll go over in more detail when we come closer to the time, but it's basically telling you what's being tested all the time, like for every test and every quiz. And then this additional notes and exercises, this is just supplementary to what's already in the textbook. It's just my summaries of what's going on and also the examples that we will be working through. So all the examples and the solutions are already there. So for instance, when we start on chapter 12, I'll just toggle between these notes and the textbook to explain, the theory, and then we'll use these Excel spreadsheets. I'll use them to work through the solutions to the questions. And so we have a setup like this for every chapter, right through to chapter 18. All right. And we've already spoken about the biography assignment has to be completed on this discussion tab. Sorry, I don't know what Cortana is trying to do here. And let me see what else. Then there's this videos tab. This is where I was saying that I do have the YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you can. This is where I'll post all of our lecture. After Zoom sends me the recording, I'll post all of our lecture materials on that channel. And then the rest is, just Blackboard specific tools and help. Just to make sure that we cover everything in the syllabus that needs to be covered. If you do have a problem, like you can't, something happened and you can't complete a test or something like that, please let me know in advance so that if you need to, need an extension on the time or something, I will allow that for one test per student per semester, but there has to be a valid documented excuse, especially because you have a whole week to plan to take it. So, it would have to be something valid that makes me have to extend, the time for you. Here we go again with this thing. Any late submission of work, again, if you're going to be late with something, there needs to be some type of documented excuse so that I can give you grace for that. So the same things apply that I've always applied. Please don't cheat, get involved in plagiarism, get other people to do your assignments for you, or do something that gives you some type of unfair advantage. I know that sometimes people think that there's a difference maybe between school versus life or work or something, but just remember that you are training to be the professional that you will be, moving forward. So, dishonesty should really not be part of your plan to succeed in school. If you are having difficulty with something, I encourage you to speak to me. Falsifying things or using somebody else's work as your own, things like that. Not only is it wrong, but you are also not learning, and we are here to learn. So, I'm happy to give help or grace if needed, but please, be careful about doing. If you're working with your buddy and you're in the same class and you guys are doing the homework together, no problem. But if you're saying to buddy, hey, buddy, did you finish the homework and I copy it? That's not fair on you and it's not fair on them. If for some reason at the end of the semester, someone cannot finish the final exam and they are actually passing the class and they've been in attendance, it's possible that they may get an incomplete in the class, and we can handle all the administration related to that should it come up. Questions about submission of work, tests, incomplete grade, any academic dishonesty, anything like that? Have I put you to sleep now? The first
No, Professor.
the first day is always like, yeah, I'm like the I don't know if you know the Peanuts cartoon. I'm like the teacher, like blah blah blah. So hopefully all of this is still useful information. Thank you for saying that, Denise. So accounting for partnerships we'll hit first. Then, like I said, unlike accounting 1, where you just dealt with a single owner business, a sole proprietorship, in accounting 2, we go into partnerships, which is 2 or more people. And then we go into corporations, which is many stockholders. That's like regular companies, right? The Apples and the Amazons and the Googles of the world. And we'll also discuss in the context of those companies, their liabilities, so money that they owe over the long term, how to calculate the cash that has flowed for them, and also how to analyze a company as a potential for either giving them a loan or investing in the stock, etc. And we've already discussed these guidelines for the online course. They are up on Blackboard. There's just repetition so that if someone doesn't see something in one place, they may see it in another place. We've already discussed how to contact me and what the etiquette is for emailing a professor, right? That you identify yourself, you identify the section, you identify the topic that you're asking about, and that you write a decent, few sentences so that the professor can understand what it is that you need help with. And then the grading system, nothing's changed, right? An A, I start rounding up to an A from 93.5 onwards, right? I'll round you up. I don't round people down, but these are the, the different percentages for those grades. That doesn't change. Okay, this is where we are. So if this is, I don't think this is new to anybody. Anything below 60 is a fail, and then the rest of the grades flow as per normal. This is also available in the college catalog if you need to look at that. The floor is open for the next few minutes for anything that you think maybe I didn't cover or that you want to ask, and then we can take a quick break. All right, so let me see. I see some stuff happening in the chat. Sorry, I missed that. Is it going to be the same link for Zoom all the time, but different link for office hours, different link for the class, right? Can you do half homework and come? Yes, and come back to finish. So the homework is not timed. Abdus, I hope I'm saying your name right. The homework is not timed. You can go in and out as long as you just save your work. Don't forget to save when you're going to go out. Otherwise, if you go out and you didn't save your work, it won't be there when you come back. But homework is untimed, extra credit is untimed. The things that are timed are quizzes and tests. And with the quizzes and tests, if you go out, the clock keeps running. All right, so I'll just say you can read this in your own time, or you don't have to read it at all. I also had written my bio for you guys. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. That's where the accent is from, but I live in Queens. And this is all my information. I'm an accounting and finance major, and then my big love is cricket, which some people have like no idea what that is, and many do. So this is just me talking about something that happened in the before times, before COVID, right? When we could actually still go out and travel and do stuff. So if you are concerned about the biography assignment and you're like, I don't know what to write, I don't feel like writing this, you can use my bio discussion as an example if you like, and you don't have to put a picture. that's not required. All right. So I think if there are no questions, no other questions here, let's take a 10-minute, I guess, digestion of all this information and leg stretch break, during which I'm going to take the attendance. And if people have questions during this break, I'm right here, so you can ask me anything. So we'll come back at like, let's make it at 11:40. We can come back and I'll talk a little bit about chapter 12, okay? 11:40. I'll share my screen again, and excuse me. And in Blackboard, if you're still in Blackboard, or if you're in Wiley, you can go into the textbook. In Blackboard, I seem to have logged myself out, so I'll go back in.
Professor,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but where did you say you added the office hours? Because I can't see it on Blackboard anywhere.
Yeah, Zoom, in the Zoom meetings, there's an office hours over there. Sorry, this, I'm using a different computer to normal, and I think I keep inadvertently zooming into the screen. I don't know what's causing this to happen. Yeah.
Okay, now I see it. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, right?
Yeah, but
Okay,
again, I
perfect.
understand that people
Thanks.
maybe don't have that timing, so please feel free to reach out to me if you want to speak to me at a different time, or if you just want to ask me questions over email.
And
That's probably
do
the
we need-
fastest.
Do we need to schedule with you in advance, or we just join at this time?
No, I have to be on at 1 o'clock on those days, so you don't have to schedule anything with me. That's when I will be there. But if there's another time that you need to speak to me that's not during that time, then you need to schedule it. Okay.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So if you're in Blackboard, if you want to follow along with the notes, you can download this thing that says chapter 12 notes. There's also the partnership examples and so on. This is what I'll use in conjunction with the textbook for the next, I guess, few sessions where we'll discuss partnerships. All right. So what is this? When you download the notes, this is just a summary of what's being written in the chapter. So it's to avoid, me having to type out or write out things on the screen. We can just go through them together. It's basically modeling after what's happening in the textbook. So let me just hide this thumbnail. Yeah. All right. So if you are looking in the textbook itself, it's chapter 12. And we will be going through, the characteristics of a partnership and so on. So I guess the first thing to note here is that a partnership is going to be 2 or more people. Again, different from your accounting one that was sole proprietors, you're dealing with 2 or more people here. So now somebody tell me, or raise a hand if you want to, what do you think, what kinds of things do you think you need to start being concerned about if it's not just you in business by yourself? Raise your hand if you want to answer this question. What do you think you need to, I guess, worry about? Okay, Tanisa, go ahead.
I would say there are liabilities.
All right, what do you mean by that?
If you're in a partnership with someone within a business, and you're sharing, how should I say it? You're sharing assets and other things that are legally separated or that are just legally between both people. If something happens, then that person can probably sue you. So, I think that's probably the route I would go on as far as seeing liabilities. Like, you're not technically in control of the entire
Okay.
business, basically.
Okay, so you've mentioned a lot of things that that do apply here. you were talking about liabilities. So here's something already. And again, this is straight from the textbook. It's unlimited liability, right? So that means that if you and I, Tanisa, go into a partnership and, you know, we do whatever we're going to do and the partnership takes on debt and, you know, we have loans and things, then each partner is going to be individually and personally liable for the debt of the partnership. So, you know, to your point, then both of us will have to pay up. And if we can't pay up, they will look to the partnership to take assets of the partnership. What is an asset? Somebody else who I haven't heard from yet today. Someone want to raise your hand? Remember, we want to talk about fundamentals also. What is an asset? Quickly, quickly. Okay, I've got my two after the someone else says, oh, Maya, you're in the mix. Maya, let me take you. Go ahead, Maya. What is an asset?
An asset is something that you have.
Mm-hmm. All right, so something that you own or control and you're expecting future benefits, right? So if the partnership as liabilities, which is something that's owed as implied by what Tanisa was saying, first, the creditors are the people that you owe the money to, are going to look to the partnership's assets. If there aren't enough assets in the partnership, where are they going to go next? The partner's personal assets. So you want to be careful here. If you know, I know it's not just always bad news. Like sometimes it's, you know, but you create a business and everything goes great. But just in case, if you start a business with someone, you want to make sure that, you know, they can be trusted, because there's such a thing as what we call mutual agency. Yeah. Mutual agency means that each partner acts on behalf of the partnership. So if I go into partnership with Chen, who's on this call, if you and I go into partnership together, if I go and take out debt on behalf of the partnership and I create a liability, that is okay. Then everybody owes the money, right? You may not like it, but I can act on behalf of the partnership. And then if something goes wrong, we all have to pay in the money. And then if Wen has a lovely house where they're living with their family, that house could be taken because I went and made debt. So that's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, Wen and I make a good partnership, we make a lot of money, everything's fine. But you know, if someone says to you, let's go into business together, you're essentially informally making a partnership. You want to make sure that you understand what type of person you are dealing with, because when they act on behalf of the partnership, you are also implicated, meaning you are also responsible for whatever they are doing. And you know, these things maybe not in such great detail, but these things, like what I was saying, these things are discussed in your textbook here, right? It's an association of individuals. Sorry, let's see what that means. So the partnership is going to be a separate legal entity. Okay, so what does that mean for us? Remember, you are always the accountant sitting and doing the books of the business. So you want to know what goes into those books. The partnership is separate from each individual partner. So when Wen and I go into partnership, if I bring some assets and Wen brings some assets, those assets become the assets of the partnership, not of each one of us, right? Separately, it belongs to the partnership itself. So when we are doing the accounting, we're accounting for the partnership, not for the partners, you know, the separate partners. And the partners will pay tax themselves. The partnership doesn't have to pay tax, but all the assets, all the liabilities, the revenue, the expense, all those things go into the partnership as a separate legal entity. That also means that if there's someone trying to sue somebody, the partnership can be sued in its own capacity because it's a separate legal entity. Any questions on this notion of the partnership being a separate legal entity or joint liability? All right, so what else? Limited life. a partnership may be ended because of a partner leaving the partnership, someone passing away, a new partner coming in, a partner becomes what we call incapacitated, which means they can no longer do whatever part of the business they're supposed to be doing. So that means that the partnership will have to end and start again or just end. This is very different from a company, right? Remember Steve Jobs? I don't know if you remember from years ago, but Steve Jobs is the founder of Apple. Steve Jobs passed away some years back and Apple is still going, right? The fact that the founder passed away doesn't mean that the company stops, but with a partnership, if someone is no longer in the partnership ends. It's the same for sole proprietorship, right? If you're a single person company, if you're no longer there, then the company ends as well. And then the last piece over here, the partners own the property together. So again, this goes into the accounting. You want to be thinking, what does this mean? So if, let's see, who will I form a partnership with? If Jefferson Cruz is on this call, Jefferson and I can form a partnership together, right? Whatever Jefferson, let's say Jefferson gives a car and I give a house, and that's going to be used by the partnership in our business. Those assets go onto the books of the partnership, and now Jefferson and I own those assets together. In the partnership, we don't own them separately anymore. So I can't go to Jefferson and say, hey, Jefferson, I gave the house to the partnership, I want it back. It doesn't work like that. Once it goes into the partnership, it's co-ownership. We own everything together. And if we want to get stuff out of the partnership, then we basically have to either sell the thing and get our money, or we have to buy the other person out, because each partner has a claim on the assets of the partnership. So we can't say, well, you gave the car, Jefferson, so that car belongs to you forever. It doesn't work that way. We all own everything together. So, you know, again, is this just theory? In a way, but not really, because a lot of what we're discussing actually impacts how we account for the partnership. Right, that we will have to have the partnership book separately. If a partnership liquidates, which we will deal with, then we have to actually sell the assets and pay off all the debts and split the money between the partners and so on. And it's all driven by these characteristics, right? That's what drives how we account for the partnership.
Will we learn about corporation?
Chapter 13.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, we're not there yet. You're ahead of me. You're ahead of me. All right. So all of this, you know, sometimes it's hard to read the textbook, or maybe people don't want to read the textbook. Like, I don't, you know, this looks overwhelming. What's going on here? Is this the same thing that was in the classroom? It's all the same. John, do you have a question? To get rid of this.
Yes, I have a
Yeah.
question. So
Yeah, go ahead.
looking at how accounting 2 is set up, for the exams, are they going to be like accounting 1 when it comes to like doing numbers, or it's going to be like more like based on this?
Yeah, so this is only the introduction to this chapter, which is a little bit of talking with some, you know, we're doing some theory. It's going to be predominantly calculations, John, with journal entries and you know, it's actual accounting. I'm not going to just be asking you theoretical questions. I may ask you in a multiple choice, you know, what's a benefit of a partnership or something. That will be it. But there's no writing long essays and stuff. You're actually doing the numbers.
It seems more like business law, if anything.
Yeah, but that's because that's because you did the different structures of business. You know, I know, but trust me, you're so close to coming to. We'll cover journal entry before you leave today. I promise. Okay.
Okay, sounds perfect.
All right. So, you know, because of things that can go right and things that can go wrong, like, right, when Jefferson and I start the partnership, we're all excited. I'm giving the house, he's giving the car. We're thinking this is going to be the best thing ever, blah, blah, blah. Suddenly something happens and we're like, oh no, you know, I need to get money out of the partner, or I need to do something or whatever. If we don't have what's called a partnership agreement, then there might be, you know, some fighting, whether in the law courts or elsewhere, because we're saying, hey, you know, nowhere did we actually write down how we are going to share profits or losses, how we are going to account for different things. So you want to make sure that when there is a partnership, that you actually have a partnership agreement. We'll see in the second section of this work that we cover, when we divide up net income and loss between partnerships, between partners, excuse me. That's when we will see how important it is to have an agreement, because it's going to tell us how to split the money between the partners. If you don't have an agreement, then everything defaults to 50-50. So if Jefferson is working hard every day in the partnership and I am lazing on the beach somewhere in the Caribbean, if we don't have a partnership agreement, we split the profits 50-50, Jefferson's not going to be so happy with me, because I'm not doing anything, but I'm actually getting half of the money, right? So make sure if you're going to a partnership with someone that you actually end up having an agreement, so that you don't do a lot of work and get less of the profits than you expect. And then the next piece is just talking about the different types of partnerships that exist. The textbook has a nice little, let me try and hide this thumbnail. It has a nice little table here that just says, you know, what's the difference between the these partnerships. So you've got a regular partnership, which is just the 2 or more people and all those characteristics we just discussed. Then there's something called a limited partnership, where you have limited partners and a general partner. The general partner will be liable for all the debts. The general partner is involved in all the day-to-day business, and the limited partners are basically just investors that give money, but they don't participate in management. When I used to work at a company called Deloitte. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but Deloitte is one of the big 4 accounting firms. We used to audit a lot of limited partnerships, because a lot of private equity funds, venture capital funds, and so on are structured as limited partnerships, all right? And then there's also something called a limited liability partnership. Deloitte is a limited liability partnership. The big thing to remember here is that we go into something like this if we don't want to be responsible for the mistakes of someone else. So doctors would be in a limited liability partnership, because they don't want to have to pay if one of their colleagues has malpractice claims. Auditors want to be in limited liability partnerships, because they're in a partnership, but they don't want to be responsible if someone on the West Coast is making a mistake, right? And I'm here on the East Coast and I don't even know about it. So a lot of the time it's law, medicine, and accounting that does this. And then the last one, sometimes you've heard people say, oh, I'm opening an LLC. Right, I'm sure you've heard that. LLC, I'm creating an LLC for my business. That's a limited liability company, where you actually are able to use that structure. So as an individual, you are limiting your liability so that it's no longer unlimited like it would be if it was just a normal partnership. All right, so different types of business. Why do you care? Because, you know, John was talking about law. There's some legal implications. There are also accounting implications. And LLC is a little bit more expensive to create, but it does provide you with some protection. If something goes wrong, you can shield your personal assets, so that if people sue the LLC, they aren't able to sue you and get your personal assets. So that's kind of the I guess the theoretical underpinnings of the structure of a partnership. Why have a partnership agreement? Your book discusses a little bit about what are the advantages and disadvantages of a partnership. We kind of dealt with that already. Disadvantages are, anyone that's in the partnership can act on behalf of the partnership, whether they're acting in a good way or a bad way. There's a limited life if I decide to leave. that's the end of the partnership. We have unlimited liability. But of course, the other things that are important is that it's easy to create. We can get people who have good different skills to come together and make a good combination, you know, to do business. And you don't have such a big business like a corporation where you have to call a meeting for all the stockholders to make decisions. It's just going to be between you and a few other people making those decisions. So that's the theory. Any questions? Raise your hand if you have questions on the theory. Otherwise, we'll go into what it takes to form a partnership. And then, John, I'll give you your promised journal entry. Any questions? That's fine. Is this going to be on the test? Is usually a question, you know, yes, it will be on the test, but very limited. With the theory, it will probably just be a multiple choice question. It's not going to be anything crazy. The tests are predominantly going to be, you know, the actual act of accounting for the partnership. All right. I don't see anything in the chat. I don't see any hands up, so I'll push on. So what are we going to do with this partnership accounting? There's going to be 4 things, right? 4 things that you need to be able to handle. Where's the webcam? Okay, 4 things that you need to be able to handle here once we're done with this chapter. Number 1, we're going to form the partnership together. Okay, so we're going to do all the journal entries and things that we need to do in order to form a partnership. This is where I remind you that the partnership is a separate legal entity. So anything that is given as assets to the partnership, we record them in the books of the partnership, not the books of the partners. Okay, the partners' individual wallets are not our concern. We're concerned with the partnership. So we'll do the formation. Then we're going to learn how to divide the net income and loss between the partners. That could be in all different types of ratios, in all different types of ways. Okay, because remember now, it's not one owner anymore where you had owner's capital in accounting 1, and it was just one owner and you could just close off net income to the owner and you're done. Now you have to split the money between 2 or more people. So there's an extra step before you can give everyone their money. They actually first have to split it. Then the third thing that we're going to look at is partnership financial statements. For the most part, the financial statements are similar to sole proprietorships. Can I get a hand for someone? Let me lift this up so I don't give the answer away. Who's going to tell me with a hand, someone who hasn't spoken yet, 1 or 2 types of financial statements that you remember from accounting 1? What were the financial statements? I want to hear from someone who hasn't spoken today. We can wait for you. Aha. Is it Ivan or Ivan? Go ahead.
It's Ivan.
Ivan, hi. Hi.
Hi,
Please
how are
go
you?
ahead. Fine, thank you.
Yeah, balance sheets or income statements.
Perfect. Thank you, Ivan. Scarlett Pacheco, you want to add to that? Scarlett?
Sorry. The honors equity statements.
Thank you, Scarlett. Shafak, anything else that you want to add?
Cash flow statements.
Statement of cash flows. Thank you. Between the 3 of you, you got it all down. Thanks, guys. That was helpful. So for partnerships, we're going to go through the same thing, right? You're looking at income statement. You're looking at owner's equity statement, but in this case, we call it partner's capital statement. I'll walk you through all of that. And the balance sheet is basically the same, except that now we have more than one owner. So we'll discuss how to show that, and we'll also practice together. And then the statement of cash flows is the same, whether it's a partnership or sole proprietorship or a corporation. So we don't have to do a separate statement of cash flows for the partnership. Another question here, and let me put when I saw your hand was up and you didn't have an opportunity to speak, so I'll put you on the spot. When do you remember what goes into the income statement? When Chen, your hand was up before.
Revenue, expenses.
Perfect. Revenue, expenses, gains and losses. Thank you. Anybody want to tell me another voice that I haven't heard yet today? Anything that you remember that goes into the balance sheet? You can raise your hand. Someone who hasn't spoken yet today. Don't make me call on you. What goes into the balance sheet? All right, I'm gonna call on someone. Oh, there, Lewis, you're saving everybody. Is that how you pronounce your name, Lewis?
Yes.
Hi, Lewis. Talk to me.
Assets, liabilities, and capital.
Thank you. Okay, so it's assets, liabilities, and owner's equity, which includes capital. Perfect. Thank you. So when we go through the financial statements, you guys already, many of you already know what goes into those financial statements. I'll demo for you everything again, but it will start to ring bells because it's similar to what you were doing before. I see someone's chatting with me. Okay, that's just Michaela. Okay. And then the last part. So far we have three things, right? We may have forgotten the first two. I'm not sure. Forming a partnership, dividing net income and loss, partnership financial statements, and then the fourth thing is liquidating the partnership. So when the partnership ends, we're going to go through a step-by-step process to actually liquidate the partnership and divide up whatever's left over between the partners and close out all the accounts. So if you're thinking about chapter 12, you're thinking about those four things and whether you know all the journal entries and all the mechanics that are going to go into those four things. Does this mirror the textbook? Yes, it does. Basically, it's going to go through everything the same. Here's the accounting for partnership formation, the start, and then we'll go through step by step. So what is critical to remember for formation? I think here the biggest thing is that we record all the investments. So by investments, we mean the assets or whatever it is that the partners are giving to the partnership. We have to record them at fair market value. Anybody want to take a guess what we mean by fair market value of the assets? It's okay to take a wild guess.
I was
Courtney?
gonna take a wild guess.
Oh, Andrew, you want to take a wild guess? And then I also have some other people that will wild guess with you. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was thinking maybe it probably is the price that both parties will have to pay for like the assets or liabilities. That's what I was kind of thinking of.
Okay, so it's a price that both parties have to pay. When would they be paying that? What can you elaborate, or do you want to end your wild guess there? Because it's okay if you want to end it there.
Yeah, I want to end it
Okay,
there.
end it there. Courtney, Simeon, I saw you and I lost you, but you can come back. You want to add on to the wild guess?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the price of like whatever the investment is, like the set price of it.
Okay. Yeah, you guys are on the right track. Shafak, did you want to add to that, or the kind of getting to what you were trying to say as well?
Isn't it like what a property would be sold for in an open market?
Yeah, so you both, thank you to the three of you, we've got it. So the fair market value is what the property would be bought or sold for, not under any type of pressure or anything. It's basically just what the market is dictating that thing is worth on that particular day or time. So fair market value is not historical cost. By historical cost, I mean, if I bought, a car, you guys know about the shortage in semiconductor chips, right? If I bought a car last year, and I paid 20,000 for it because there's such a shortage of used cars right now. And, you know, everyone's looking for cars, but they're not being manufactured because there are no semiconductors to manufacture them. I could probably sell the car at a fair market value right now that is actually higher than what I originally paid for the car. So if I paid 20,000 last year, I may even be able to sell it for 25,000 or 30,000 now because there's a shortage of cars. So the 25 or 30,000 that I'm talking about today, that is the fair market value. That's determined by the market, so the buying and the selling that's going on, not necessarily by the historical cost, the price that we paid long ago. Why does that matter? Because when partners contribute assets to the partnership, they may be contributing assets that were purchased years ago for a particular price, but that doesn't mean that that price is still applicable. So when you're looking at a question, you're always looking to see if they tell you what the fair value or the market value is, not the book value. Book value is cost minus accumulated depreciation. So I'll write that in here, not book value, okay, which is cost minus accumulated depreciation. You're not concerned with that. You want to know. And then, of course, everybody has to agree that the value is correct or not correct, but that they agree that it's reasonable. It's never necessarily the correct price because it's determined by the market. Because if any, that's the amount that the asset will go into the books at, and you want to make sure that the partnership is going to reflect the appropriate amount. So this is, you know, the critical piece that to remember. And now we will go and look at least one formation question so that you can see how this plays out, right, in reality or whatever. So this is what I meant when I said all of this theory leads us to actually the accounting for the stuff. So looking at example 1, this is basically almost the same as what's in the textbook. I'm just, you know, dealing with this in the class and working it through with you as opposed to just referring you to the textbook. So here's the two partners, right? A. Rolf and T. Shay start a partnership, right? Rolf contributes cash of $8,000. So someone, it can be anybody at this point, can you tell me what's the fair market value of cash, of $8,000 in cash? What's the fair market value of that?
8,000?
Yes, right? No, there should be no discrepancy with cash. So you can be comfortable with that, right? We're not living in hyperinflation or something where the fair market value of cash is different to the actual amount. Office equipment with a cost of $5,000 and $2,000 accumulated depreciation. So now think about what I just said. Do we care about book value? Not book value, right? You are concerned with fair value. So far they've only given you a book value. You don't care about this because this is what Rolf paid for this thing ages ago. You don't know how long ago that was. And the accumulated depreciation doesn't belong to the partnership. It belongs to Rolf's old sole proprietorship. So that shouldn't appear in the books of the partnership. So we'll see if they give us a fair market value for the office equipment. Otherwise, we have a problem. Shay contributes cash of $9,000, so we're good with cash, and accounts receivable of $4,000. So what Shay is doing is saying, I'm bringing all my customers into the partnership. I'm giving the customers over to the partnership, and the partnership will be able to collect $4,000, right, of accounts receivable. But there's an allowance amount of $700. So these are somewhat difficult questions. So I'll just open it up to anybody. Does anybody remember anything about allowance for doubtful accounts or bad debts? Am I speaking a foreign language? Any takers? All right, so the silence is indicative of the fact that either people don't remember or it may not have been covered, which is fine. So let's talk a little bit about allowance. and the allowance amount. And, you know, if you want to know where this is found, it's in chapter 9 of the textbook, which is something that's covered under accounting 1. So allowance amount, that's the short way of saying allowance for doubtful accounts. So when you sell to someone on account, meaning that they don't have to pay immediately, they'll pay, you know, in 30 days or 60 days or whatever terms you give them, there is a possibility that that customer may not pay. Do you guys agree with that? Right? There's a possibility for anybody. Things change. I mean, especially in the current environment that we have been living in for 18 months, people's circumstances change, and payments that they were able to make easily before, they may not be able to make again or make anymore. So what a company is required to do is to estimate, right? And by estimate, we mean it's not necessarily the fixed answer. You have to estimate to see what dollar amount of your receivables you do not think you will be collecting, right? So what Shay is saying is that, yes, I have accounts receivable of 4,000, but I actually think that there should be an allowance of 700 because I'm actually only going to collect, right? I'm actually going to only collect 3,300. Questions there? Any questions? All right, so only going to collect 3,300, so the allowance is 700. So the allowance, again, is an estimate. It's not an actual fact, because it might be that people will all pay, or no one will pay, or 750 will not pay, or whatever. But you make a good faith estimate, and then you say, that's what I think I won't collect. So this is what they're saying. But if I can just jump ahead, look here. The partners agree that the allowance should actually be 1,000. So what do you think? They are more or less convinced that they'll collect the money. Is the
They're more
allowance
convinced?
Did you say more or less? I didn't hear.
I said
50,
more.
50. Okay, so your odds are better than Vegas, but it's actually less, right? Because they're increasing the amount by another 300. They're saying, actually, we think that $300 more of people will not be collected, right? Because they look what happens, right? If you make this 1,000 now, you're going down to 3,000 from 3,300. So the two partners coming together, they're saying, well, some people still look sketchy that they may not pay. So we're going to say we're only able to collect 3,000. So do we use the 700 or do we use the 1,000? What do you guys think? 700 or 1,000?
1,000?
1,000, because that's what the partners agree on. So in a way, the 3,000 is kind of like the fair market value of the accounts receivable. And I'll show you how to account for that in the journal entry. And then the last piece you can see here, they finally tell us that the market value of the office equipment, market value is the same as fair market value. So the market value is 4,000. So we had a book value of 3,000, but we should actually record this at 4,000. So now the question becomes, how do we do this, right? Prepare the journal entries for each partner's investment in the business. So often people will say, I struggle with accounting because I'm not good at math. Yes, accounting does involve some math, but the biggest thing that will make you stumble with accounting is not understanding the rules and the principles around how to account for a transaction. Because if you are looking at this information and you don't know that we have to record fair market value, you're going to end up recording the wrong stuff, right? So please remember that, yes, there is a mathematical component because you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, maybe working with some decimals, but sometimes it's not the math that's the issue. It's the fact that people are not memorizing or remembering the rules. So I'm going to use the rules now and make a spreadsheet here quickly and do the journal entries. You can, what I usually do with these spreadsheets is I you know, work on them, oops, sorry, and put them up on Blackboard, and you can look at, you know, look at them over time, but I'll use the same thing as we go along. So this is the first question. We need to have debits and credits, right? So for my people who were struggling with the fundamentals, what do we know about, does anybody want to tell me what debit and credit means? Or do you want me to tell you? Probably me to tell you that. Oh, John. Okay, let's go, John.
Take a guess, but is debit what you owe?
Not necessarily, right? So it's actually very neutral. Debit and credit, if you read the book, it's just directional signals. It's basically just telling you debit is what's on the left and of a T account looking like an actual T. Credit is on the right. And whether it's something that you owe or it's a plus or a minus is determined by the type of account that you are dealing with. And by type of account, I mean, is it an asset? Is it a liability? Is it a revenue expense? Is it a capital account, right? So John, when you think of debits and credits, you want to just think about them as being the direction, right? So if I draw a T, forgive me if it's, hopefully it's not too long-winded here, but if I draw a T account like this, you may remember this from accounting 1, right? Then the debit is literally going to be, right? Remember, it's DR, CR, or debit and credit. It's literally going to be like that, debit and credit. And whether that's a plus or a minus depends on what is the name of the account, right? So if this account becomes, let's say this account becomes cash. Sorry, I apparently can't type today. Let's say this account is cash. Because cash is an asset, it's going to go up on the debit and down on the credit. Still following?
Yes.
But if the account becomes, let's say, a liability, what happens?
It decreases.
Decreases, and then the
down
credit
on the
increases.
debit and up on the credit. So we can never say that debit or credit is money owed or money, you know, we don't know until we know which account we are dealing with. So that's why we say initially debit and credit is just the direction. It's just telling you, you're dealing with the left-hand side of the account or the right-hand side of the account. Once you know what type of account you're dealing with, you know whether it's increasing or decreasing on the debit or the credit. How's that? Little bit better? Or
Yeah,
a lot worse?
Sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so we'll continue to try and reiterate some of the fundamentals. I saw another hand going up here in the meantime. I didn't see who that was, if that person had a question or if it was just to answer my question.
Hi, Professor. This is Michelle Cameron. Yeah, I was going to answer the question. But
Oh, okay.
You got it.
Okay, sorry, I missed you. I would have preferred you to answer instead of me. All right, thanks, Michelle. Okay, so let's go back and remind ourselves now we got to do this journal entry. So we'll start with Rolf. Rolf is giving cash. So now I'm going to bore some people, but I'm going to kind of just be a little bit boring and say cash is an asset. So cash of the partnership is increasing. Therefore, we will debit cash because cash increases on the debit side of the account. Okay, that's how the journal entry is generated. That's how we know whether to debit or credit. So cash goes up. So we debit cash because it's an asset. It's going up. And don't think of cash like debit cards and credit cards. And, you know, if it's shouldn't it be a credit or, you know, because it's something good like a credit that I get when I'm doing a class or whatever. No, these are just rules that you almost have to blindly follow. Cash, asset, cash is going up. Assets go up on the debit side, therefore you debit cash. Done. Don't let any other further noise come into your head. The next item that we have to book is office equipment with a fair value of 4,000. So I go in, I say to myself, what type of account is office equipment? Office equipment, thank you, is an asset. It's an asset of the partnership that's going up, right, by 4,000 because the partners are giving 4,000 worth of assets to the partnership. So we will debit because it goes up on the debit side. We're not in balance. That's another fundamental rule of accounting, right? That we have to balance. It's like almost kind of Zen, right? These transactions have to balance. We've got 12,000 on the debit side. We've got nothing on the credit side. So this is a one-legged journal entry, and it doesn't work like that. You got to find something else, right? So looking again, Rolf didn't give us anything else. So now it means that there's something that has to happen here for 12,000 on the credit side, but what is it going to be? Any takers? How do we balance this? What did you used to do when you were doing the owner invests cash in the business in accounting one? You debited cash, and what did you credit?
Revenues?
No.
No, not revenues, sorry.
That's okay.
Owner's capital.
Yeah, so the credit is going to go to a capital account to show that Rolf gave this amount of assets, and therefore also has to have this amount of an investment in the business. What type of account is this? Capital account. It shows the owner's stake, right, in the business of 12,000. Capital accounts increase on the credit side. Therefore, we credit the account to show that Rolf's capital has gone up as a result of Rolf contributing all those assets. Questions there? All right, so I'm going to move on to the next one. Shay gives cash. We already know how the cash thing moves. So I'm separating these two journal entries. They can also be done together, but I don't want to cause confusion by doing them together. So I'm showing them separate. So Shay has cash, also a debit of 9,000. And then there's this accounts receivable business. So what we know about accounts receivable is that it's an asset, and the asset is being contributed to the partnership. Therefore, the assets of the partnership is going up by 4,000. Assets go up on the debit side. So accounts receivable is going to be debited. And it's the full 4,000. Somebody should be saying, why isn't it 3,000, Professor? Didn't we just decide that 3,000 is what we think we're going to collect? No one said that, but I'm saying it because I need to move the conversation along, right? But think about it. Why is it 4,000 and not 3,000? Does anybody want to take another? This is a good time for a wild guess. I see someone's chatting to me. Sorry if I don't always get the chat. Anyone want to take a wild guess why I didn't put 3,000 in there?
Maybe because we have the credit allowance for 1,000.
Ooh, who's speaking? Thank you. Yes.
Scarlett.
Huh? Scarlett. Thank you,
Yes.
Scarlett. Yes. So Scarlett, you hit the nail on the head. The allowance is only an estimate. It's not a fact. So we can't act as if we're only going to collect 3,000. We have to show the full 4,000 in the hopes that we will get it. But then we have to say, hey, it's possible that 1,000 may not be collected. So why is this being credited? Now things are going to get a little bit wild here, right? Because this is called a contra asset, right? It's an asset, but it increases on the credit side. So that's really confusing, Professor. What are you talking about? Okay, so let's look at it this way. Accounts receivable goes up on the debit side. Can you agree with me on that? Yes, right? Up on the debit side. The 1,000 is a subtraction from accounts receivable. So we need to have something to reduce it. So the allowance will have to go up on the opposite side, right? It goes up on the credit so that they can be opposite from each other, so that we can still show 3,000 when we look at the balance sheet. So the rules, right? Not math, rules. Allowance for doubtful accounts is a contra asset that increases on the credit side. So when Shay gives the accounts receivable to the partnership, we record the receivable as the asset that it is going up on the debit side, and then we record the allowance as an increase on the credit side because by the rules of accounting, the allowance account increases on the credit side. Questions on that? Because that's normally what people get wrong on the test. So just saying. So either everybody understands everything or no one understands anything by the silence, right?
Got
All
it, Professor.
So if there's a hand to be raised, go right ahead. I can answer, but I'll push on since I'm not doing anything. So T. Shay is the person who is contributing here. What do we have? We've got 13,000, right? Check my math. We've got 13,000 on the debit side. We've only got 1,000 on the credit side. The journal entry is not in balance. In order for a journal entry to be correct, it has to balance dollar amounts, not the number of accounts, not names of accounts. Dollar amounts have to balance debit side and credit side, right? So that then means that we are still missing how much on the credit side?
What? 12,000.
Is that
Thank you.
12?
Thank you. Thank you. Whoever said that. So 12,000 is missing on the credit side. And what is that? Well, by now, you know, all these things were contributed by a partner. So you have to show in the partnership books that T. Shay has an investment in the partnership and it increases on the credit side by 12,000. That's a formation journal entry. As promised, we have done one journal entry, ruminate on it, think about it, you know, what that means if you know, this is all on the Blackboard. I'll show you again if you want to go back and look at everything. All the exercises and the solutions are already there. This is in the additional notes and exercises tab, which is right near the bottom over here. You can review it. If you want to review it in the textbook, because that's more convenient for you, it's happening right here. Okay, it's basically the same thing that I just did is right there in the textbook. This textbook you can also mark up, I think, in some way. That's what the Wiley rep said to me. So again, I took these two journal entries separate, but they can be combined. It just becomes a compound entry and it gets a little bit more involved. So we'll leave it there for today. Next time when we get together, we'll do some more formation entries, then we'll move into income allocation, financial statements, and eventually liquidations. Yeah, that's all I have. I don't want to you know, push too hard. It's a long class. I think we've done enough. So I've got everybody's attendance. I'm going to stay on for the next 10 minutes in case people have more questions. And if you are comfortable with where we're at and you don't have questions for me, go and have a lovely afternoon. And I will see you next week, Tuesday at 10:30.
Thank you so much, Professor.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Goodbye.
Great rest of your
Thank you
week.
so much,
Thank you,
Professor.
Professor. Have a good
Professor,
one.
real quick, so just about the forming up a partnership, right? Just as far as the example and us getting the statements and everything, of course, I'm gonna need a little bit more help. I was following you along as you were doing everything, and it seemed like I was sort of grabbing the concept of it.
Okay.
I just didn't want to like hold up everyone else and like
No, it's fine. Yeah.
But yeah, just as we go along, if we could just, I know you said on Tuesday we'll be able to go over more examples of it, so I'll be looking forward to Tuesday. This is Andrew speaking, by the way.
Yeah, I saw now it was you. But Andrew, do you have a question for me now? Because we still have time. I've got like 10 minutes. Do you want
Oh
me
no,
to
not at the moment. It's just that, you know, as I go along, I'll be able to understand it a little bit more better.
Okay.
Just as far as the
Okay.
just more on the credit and the liability side. That's the most thing.
Struggling with the credits.
Yeah, it's like sometimes I'll understand it and sometimes it's a little shaky for me, but I'll be definitely to
Just
go over the
just
textbook
hold
as
on
well.
1 second. Yeah, just hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can go right to the source of what I was discussing.
Okay.
So remember when I was drawing that T, let me just get rid of this thing. This is what I was drawing, a T account, right? And saying that debit and credit is just directional signals to show that debit is on the left and credit is on the right. If you're struggling with how to, you know, remember the debits and the credits. This is all in chapter 2. This is how you kind of memorize them, right? That the assets and all the accounts, you can think of all the accounts that are assets, cash, accounts receivable, supplies, you know, buildings, you name it, they're all office equipment. When those accounts increase, they go up on the debit, and when they decrease, it's on the credit side. I know this is like a quick synopsis, but I just want to show you where it is in the books. And then liabilities, it's the opposite way. They go up on the credit and down on the debit, and liabilities are all kinds of things, that are payable, like notes payable, accounts payable, you know, unearned revenue is also a liability. You still with me?
Okay, yeah, I'm still with you. I'm following along.
And then the owner's capital, which is what I was just dealing with here in the answer, right? Because I said the owner's capital has to go up. Remember I said that?
Yes.
And I put it on the credit side. How do I know that? Because the rules tell me that owner's capital goes up on the credit side. So if someone is contributing to a business, like if you and I start a partnership and you put money in, you would want the books of the partnership to show that you have, you know, that capital in the partnership. And the way we show that is to increase your capital. And the rules tell us that that has to be a credit. It just has to be a credit.
Okay. All right.
Mhm,
Well,
mhm.
definitely as we go along with more practice, I'll definitely get a better understanding.
And just ask or come to office hours. The biggest thing that you can do for yourself in this class is that if there's some type of challenge or situation, just try to deal with it like immediately. Don't let it build up, because it's when it builds up, then people start feeling like overwhelmed, like, oh my word, I don't understand anything. And sometimes it's just like a really basic, like fundamental thing that needs to be cleared up. So thanks for your transparency by saying that you might need extra support. I'm here, and you are allowed to stop me during the class and ask questions. You don't have to assume that everybody else knows what's going on, because I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I know that that's not the case, right? When you ask a question, there's probably 3 or 4 other people who have the same question, but they're too scared to ask.
Alrighty, no problem. I was just gonna start taking advantage of the office hours more.
Yeah,
That's why I
yeah.
was writing down questions on the side.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I see there's a question from Maria Rios. Go ahead, Maria.
But all right, Professor, I'll let you go. I have to get out
Okay,
to get ready to go to work.
Cheers, Andrew. Have a good day.
You too. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Hi, Professor. I just wanted to confirm with you, you were able to take my attendance.
Maria, yeah, I've got you. I'll check again. The only people I don't have are really people who are not on the score. I got you already because I just checked the participant list. You're good.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Have a good one.
Yeah, you're welcome. You have a good one too.